The original Metroid Prime on the Nintendo GameCube is an all-time classic, one of the most innovative games of all time, and really took a concept that nobody knew was possible with a 2D Metroid game and put it into a fully 3D world and executed brilliantly when it comes down to it, and helped sell a lot of GameCubes back in the day. And now, fast forward all the way 20 plus years later, we have Metroid Prime Remastered, and I wanted to take a look at the reviews of this game to see if it really stacks up to what we got back in the day. And so far, there aren't a lot of reviews. There's only 5 critic reviews, but that actually might be a good thing based off of previous history with remasters and re-releases coming out and usually doing considerably worse or just points off of, and people can't quite equate, well, wait a minute, if it's the same game but better, why is the score below? Well, obviously you have different reviewers, there's different factors, different time period, there's all sorts of reasons why, but I think that with Metroid Prime Remastered, I feel that with the 96 Metacritic score, which is 1 point lower than the original GameCube score, I think that it shows that the game still holds up very well despite it being 20 plus years old. So it's a testament to the game and the design and the art and the quality of what they did back then. The fact that it can still be 20 years later with new reviewers and new standards, and it's still right around in terms of the Metacritic score, because we saw with Skyward Sword, we've seen with Xenoblade, we've seen with so many other remasters come back that it doesn't always quite live up to maybe what some people felt. And I think that Metroid Prime Remastered is one of those games that was so brilliantly crafted back then that it doesn't really matter when you play the game. It was timeless because people would be playing it throughout all these decades that we haven't seen anything from Metroid Prime when it comes to a big console release. People have been playing it and saying it still holds up very well. Now, I wanted to go over some of the reviews with the game to kind of get a little bit of a portrait of exactly how good this game is. Now, I talked about it in a video that I did recently on the channel where I played the game. If you want to watch it, I'll have a link for you guys in the description. You can watch my playthrough of the first area of the game and the boss battle, and it was so interesting getting used to the new dual analog controls. I've never played a Metroid Prime game with dual analog controls in my life. The first game on the GameCube and the second game on the GameCube all used a lock-on system, which you can still use in the Metroid Prime Remaster game, but Metroid Prime 3 on the Nintendo Wii used the pointer controls, so it was IR pointing, so it was very different. So I've never used the dual analog setup for Metroid Prime, so it was a little bit weird, and there was definitely some awkwardness, but you get used to it, and it ends up being a ton of fun. So right now, 5 critic reviews, 96 average so far. I'm trying to refresh to make sure that we get all of them, but yes, 5 reviews. So we're going to start off with the high scores here, which would be 2 10 out of 10s, one from Gaming Bible, and they have this to say about Metroid Prime Remastered. They said that the game is the Nintendo Switch game I've been waiting for since the console launched back in 2017, and the surprise release has somehow only managed to exceed every expectation I had for it. This is the perfect version of one of the few truly perfect video games. I only hope that everyone who wrote it off as a clunky first-person shooter or Nintendo's answer to Halo way back when will give it another chance and discover just how good it really is. Which, yes, there were people that were saying that about Metroid Prime, although it still reviewed incredibly well, won Game of the Year awards. It was just an incredible tech showcase for the GameCube. But yes, there were some people saying that on message boards. I remember on the Game Revolution message boards, to be exact, people were saying that all the time. Next up is Nintendo Life. They gave the game a 10 out of 10 and have this to say: with Metroid Prime Remastered, the seemingly impossible has been achieved. A masterpiece has been made even better. The minor issues we have had with the motion controls and the occasional visual hiccup pale in comparison to the enhancements that have been made here. The visual improvements are extensive, right through the mirror details, and it all comes together to create one of the best looking games on Switch, remaster or not. The new twin stick control setup works flawlessly for both veterans and newcomers, but if you're itching to go back to the original GameCube controls, that option is there too. With the expanded gallery feature to round things out, Metroid Prime Remastered feels like a new benchmark in how older games can be thoughtfully revitalized for the modern age. And I want to make sure that I point out this with this remaster. It's interesting that they did include all the different older control setups, because that was one of the criticisms about the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii. It brought Metroid Prime 1 and 2 to the Nintendo Wii system, but they didn't bring the GameCube controls with it. Despite having a GameCube port on there and the Switch being a souped up GameCube, they didn't actually put the controls there as well, which was very unfortunate that they didn't. I think that more options for gamers is always a good thing, so I love the fact that they actually included every single control scheme ever in the Prime history, from the original GameCube controls to the Wii-like pointer controls, and also the modern new controls that you would expect from a new shooter on the market. So that's actually pretty cool and is a benefit to the game itself. Now, next up is from Vandal. They gave it a 9.5 out of 10 and had this to say: Metroid Prime was, is, and will continue to be an essential masterpiece that everyone with a modicum of interest and passing for this hobby should play at least once in their life. Something that this new version vindicates with more force than ever, thanks to the spectacular graphical facelift and its multiple control options. We are not going to deny that the fact that it does not include its sequels has disappointed us a bit, but right now, few games you will find on the Nintendo Switch or any other platform capable of rivaling this legendary adventure. Without a doubt, one of the best remasters ever made, an example to follow. Now, let's talk about this real quick, because Metroid Prime 2 and Metroid Prime 3 are not included in this Metroid Prime Remaster. So what's going to happen with those games? Well, we're going to have to wait and see. I'm guessing that Nintendo might release them as ports with updated controls, or they just might not be released at all. Metroid Prime is still the best, I guess, out of those three. It's arguable which one is the best game out of the trilogy. I personally think Metroid Prime 3 Corruption is the best one out of the three. If I had to just pick one based on the gameplay and what it does, I would pick Metroid Prime 3, but Metroid Prime 1 is obviously the big game. It was that first shock in terms of Metroid Prime, and Metroid Prime 2 kind of gets a little bit of hate because of having to travel back and forth between like the light world and dark world and all of that, and switching different ammos. I mean, it is difficult. That's probably the most difficult game out of the three. So I think in today's age, people might think Metroid Prime 2 is the best game out of there, because people do like the Dark Souls difficulty these days and harder games. I do think that that's something that fans would appreciate more now at this point than back then. So I'm hoping that we do get Metroid Prime 2 and 3 at some point, because it would be nice, especially leading into Metroid Prime 4, I think, which is going to be revealed sometime this year in 2023. Now, next up is from Nintenderos, and they had this to say. They gave it a 9.5 out of 10, just like Vandal. Metroid Prime Remastered is the best version of the game that could have been made. An exquisite remaster that respects to the maximum all the values of the original game, elevating it to adapt it to new times and to control schemes of Nintendo Switch in its entirety. Although we would have liked to have seen some more original content, details like its gallery full of unlockables will delight fans. Now, that's one thing that I do feel is lost a little bit on this remaster. People aren't talking about it quite enough, is the fact that there really isn't anything extra added on top of it. Now, the $40 price tag is fantastic, but they didn't really fix in terms of quality of life stuff. They didn't go in and fix some of the wireframe maps and some of the issues that the game does have outside of stuff that could be fixed with tech, like maybe like the loading doors and stuff like that. So that is fixed, but there isn't any actual in-game quality of life features that are fixed up outside of adding some controls and how you feel about that. So that is a little bit unfortunate. It would have been nice if they went and redid the maps to be easier to kind of look at and go through, which I did talk about in my gameplay. But at the same time, it is $40 and it is still an incredible game. And I do think that this game was just better designed than a lot of the older games that came out before it. So therefore, if you take the same game and you just make it better with controls and visually, you're going to get a very similar result because of how ahead of its time Metroid Prime was when it released back in 2002. So I do feel what they're saying here. I think that is a legitimate criticism with the game. Now, last on the review score here is Nintendo with a 9.1 out of 10, and they had this to say: Metroid Prime Remastered is an exceptional game, impressive at all levels, and the living proof that the series can be taken much further than its two-dimensional adventures. Somewhat uneven, but visually outstanding, its controls are superbly adapted to the Nintendo Switch, setting a precedent for the series. So yeah, I think that once again, they did a very good job with the controls and a lot of stuff with the game. And I do think that if you look at it in its entirety, like with Metroid Prime and exactly how and what it did on the Switch, people are talking about this is some of the best graphics that they've seen. And it's not really, to me, about graphics. It's more about art design. I think that the art design in this game is brilliant, and the way that they actually constructed everything is brilliant. Technologically or anything like that, like, I don't see it as like the most detailed game out there, the most polygons. Obviously it's not that. It's a GameCube game being remastered, and yes, they've redone some texture work and they've made it look better, but there are definitely other games that have better graphics. But the art design, you take the modern tools and modern graphics and stuff that we've seen obviously in this, era, and then you combine that with superior art design, you get something that's more visually pleasing to the eyes than a lot of modern games out there. And I think that's the thing that people aren't really considering here with Metroid Prime Remastered, is that the art is just so good, the way that everything is drawn and how it looks. So overall, Metroid Prime Remastered is absolutely fantastic. I think that gamers and this whole shadow drop era of big titles coming out and everything is absolutely positive. I talked about this in a video recently as well, where Metroid Prime Remastered is actually already at the top of the eShop charts. So this whole shadow dropping these remasters or smaller type of games at these big presentations is working very well for companies out there. We saw that with the Hi-Fi Rush game from Microsoft at their recent developer direct, which was just a surprise to many people out there. Now we have Metroid Prime Remastered that's just dropping out of nowhere, which was a surprise because many people kind of wrote off Metroid Prime Remastered even happening in the first place. Like, people were calling some of the insiders out there liars and how they don't know what they're talking about because, hey, this game's been rumored since 2018. And I do believe that the game has been done for quite some time now at this point, and was only delayed all the way to this point because Metroid Prime 4 was scrapped and restarted. I think that Metroid Prime 4 was probably supposed to come out sometime in like 2019 or so, and we would have saw this game years ago. But unfortunately, Bandai Namco and their partners that they were working with Nintendo could not get something that was acceptable to Nintendo, so it had to be restarted with Retro Studios, the original, and they really pretty much had to start from ground zero on the game. They hired a bunch of people, and it's literally just planning everything from the ground up, because it's not like you have a bunch of Metroid games that are on HD systems that you can easily pull from. They don't have anything. The last big Metroid Prime game was Metroid Prime 3 on the Nintendo Wii in 2007. So we're talking decade plus later. So it's not like these guys could just pull from something that they already worked on and just build off of that. They have to completely redo everything here with a ground up Nintendo Switch title in HD with Metroid Prime. That's gonna take you 4 years plus. 3 at the bare minimum, probably not that, considering you want to have a super 90 plus rated game. So I think that's what happened overall with all of this, but I think that it's great to see the game come back. Once again, There's some issues, right? There are some things here and there, but overall, you couldn't ask for a better faithful remaster to the original game than Metroid Prime Remastered. And the 96 score that it has is a testament to that, and a testament to how great the game originally was back when it released on the Nintendo GameCube. This type of thing can't always be done with all the old school games that got great scores back then. A lot of the times, if you bring it to the present, people will say, it's not as good as I remembered it, but that's not the case with Metroid Prime Remastered. So 96, once again, the game is available digitally right now. You will be able to get a physical version of the game February 22nd, so not too much longer from the time that I'm recording this video. So if you want to get that physical edition, you can get it. Pre-orders are up, or if you want to just go with the digital edition, you can as well. And you guys know me, I bought the digital edition, and I'm also buying the physical edition as well. But what are your thoughts on Metroid Prime Remastered and the score here? Plan on picking the game up? Plan on just watching it? Plan on just enjoying the physical edition? And what do you think is going to happen with Metroid Prime 4? When is Nintendo going to talk about that? Let me know in the comment section, and of course, check out my previous video on Metroid Prime Remastered, playing the game, link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next video. Peace.